Dragon Age comes roaring back this November with Dragon Age Inquisition, a bigger and more beautiful trip to the land of Thedas, where this time someone's gone and ripped the sky a new veil hole and demons are pouring through like a demonic ice bucket challenge.
We call it the Breach. It grows larger with each passing hour.
BioWare producer Cameron Lee told us how in Dragon Age Inquisition you'll ride undead horses, import your decisions from previous Dragon Age games, and see a whole new side of everyone's favourite Witch of the Wilds.
Will you stand against it?
Dragon Age fan favourite Morrigan returns in Inquisition.
Am I an unnatural abomination to be put to the torch?
The former winner of the Dragon Age Awards for Best Dressed, Least Dressed and Most Sarcastic, if they existed, is no longer a party member you can play with, but she is important.
Morrigan is definitely a favourite character of the Dragon Age world. I love Morrigan. I don't want to give any spoilers away about Morrigan, other than to say, she does play a major part in the game. Morrigan was always kind of like an ice queen, almost. I think this time, whilst you're still going to see some of that, I think you might see a little bit more of a human side to Morrigan shine through a little bit as well. So, yeah, without spoiling anything, it's going to be an interesting ride with Morrigan.
All right, so less Ice Queen rather than more Ice Queen in Inquisition.
She's always going to be a bit of an Ice Queen.
For the first time, your Dragon Age hero in Inquisition will actually say things in conversations with other characters, instead of telepathically transmitting their words in silence. The trick is getting that voice right when players are particular about how their hero should sound.
Alexius, it's time to answer for your crimes.
Giving them a choice, particularly in Inquisition, is a great way to do that. But, having a voice of a character is really important. What we're trying to do is give people a world and a story and characters where they can get immersed in. So it's not just the gorgeous environment that you can get lost in, but the immersion of the voice and the characters as well plays a big part of that. So that's why we have voice characters, of course.
I know you cared for him.
Giving them options about which one they want to pick, and then having the genders as well means there's 4 voices in there from the English version, and I think they can find the one that they like and go with that, and hopefully it suits their fantasy. There's many indie games out there that if they wanted a silent protagonist, they could certainly play those.
Sure.
But for BioWare and for Dragon Age Inquisition, it's about making a believable world, and part of that is people talking.
Well, that was impressive.
I think with Dragon Age and Dragon Age Inquisition, it's very important to us that we allow players to fulfill their fantasy, whether you want to be male or female, or what voice you want to have, how you look, what class you want to be, and how you go through the story. And that's another aspect of fantasy fulfillment. So, we want all of our players to feel like they can go in there and be the hero that they want to be, rather than being forced to be a certain thing.
Also for the first time, Dragon Age has rideable mounts for getting around in that bigger, more seamlessly open world.
We've got a variety of different mounts in the game. So, of course, there's horses, standard, typical thing, ride around.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But there's also other mounts that are like, there's one which is like the scaled kind of lizardy sort of mount. My personal favourite is what we call the Bog Unicorn. So that's an undead horse, which when it died because it had a sword stuck through its head.
Oh.
So its unicorn horn, is actually a sword tip coming out.
Nice. That's a
my
gruesome touch. Yeah.
It's pretty gruesome, yeah.
Okay, and where can you ride them? Can you ride them everywhere in the cities or just the open world?
No, you should be able to ride them everywhere. There's a couple like riding around Skyhold, which is your seat of power, your big castle. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right.
It wouldn't make sense if you were riding it through...
Like through the meeting room or something.
Exactly, yeah. So there's some places where you won't be able to ride it for story reasons. But in terms of exploring the world, absolutely, you can ride around and jump over things, and yeah, it's good fun.
If you played the previous Dragon Age games on a last-gen console and are now the proud owner of a current-gen machine, you might be wondering about your save games. Here's how you'll be able to recreate your choices online to preserve your unique set of decisions for bringing into your new game.
So we have the Dragon Age Keep, which is a website that you can go to before Dragon Age Inquisition ships, and you can set up your original characters from the previous Dragon Age games and define the major decisions and actions that you'd taken in those games. And if you want to, you don't have to, but if you want to, you can even drill down to the hundreds of different decisions that have been made in those games. And then when you start Dragon Age Inquisition on the Xbox One, you can then bring that data across and will dynamically change the world before you get started to reflect what you had in your save game. So it's a great way to cross that generational boundary. And if you just want to do the major decisions, it shouldn't take very long. Get in there for 5 minutes, quickly do it, and then
And if there's anything you really regret, you can kind of cheat a bit and
if you
change
want
it.
Yeah, but that would be dishonest.
That would be dishonest. I'm going to do that.
The story of Inquisition concerns a big tear in the interdimensional veil between the human world and the demon world, known as the Fade. Dragon Age Origins veterans might remember the Fade as that blurry brown place you couldn't wait to get out of. But it's cooler this time around, says Cameron.
The Fade plays a part in Inquisition, of course. You know, there's a massive rift in the sky, which is a tear between the real world and the Fade. And there is lots of smaller Fade rifts opening up throughout the world, and you'll see some of the Fade. It looks very, very different, though, to the other games. It's much creepier these days, so yeah.
I was going to say,
really
it wasn't
cool.
everyone's favourite location in Dragon Age
No,
Origins.
I think this one is, it's definitely different. Yeah, it's kind of like where human emotions start to take form, and you know, when you look at demons that are coming into the world, you know, there's like terror demons and fear demons and despair demons, you know, and they're named that way because they are a manifestation of emotions from the real world, and it's a creepy place, and it's almost like they have a view into the real world, but they don't understand what they're seeing. So that's why you see things like chairs that are floating on the ceiling, because they look into the real world and they go, well, there's a chair, but they don't know what a chair is, so they're like, oh, I'm just going to stick it up there, right? So it's a weird place, that's for
So
sure.
that's why that happens.
That's why it happens.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
It's not a Dragon Age without dragons, and in Dragon Age Inquisition, says the producer, there are more dragons, bigger dragons, and more sophisticated dragon fights, in which these monsters are more than just giant, scaly damage sponges for your party to wail on.
There are a lot more dragons in Dragon Age Inquisition, and they're certainly bigger, and they're more dynamic in how they play out and how you fight them. So they'll pounce around the battlefield a lot more now. They'll destroy cover because they're so big beasts. You know, if it was a house between you and a dragon, it's not going to try and just sit on the house. It's going to go through the house. You know, for the first time, you can target the individual limbs of a dragon. So if you can take down 2 of its legs, it can fall over. It gives you time to attack its head before it sort of gets up and recovers. So yeah, they're really dynamic creatures now, which is ace.
I remember them being really viciously difficult in the first game. Is there more of a gradient between
yes.
uber hard dragon and kind of baby dragon now?
Well, you know, I mean, all dragons are going to be hard to some
I hope,
degree, but
yeah.
no, the dragons there's a variety of different types of dragons as well. So you'll certainly see the big high dragons, and there are babies, which are kind of like little dragonlings that run around. You know, so the mama dragons, which are the high dragons, are really nasty, and then the smaller ones are the males running around. So yeah, I mean, each dragon will play out slightly differently depending on where it's at, what the sort of combat area looks like for the dragon to use, and what particular attacks it may have. Because it'll swing its tail around, it'll take off, it'll do strafing runs, and some of them are fire dragons, some of them are frost dragons. There's a variety of different types in there.
Bow before your new god and be spared.
Those were the new dragons of Dragon Age Inquisition, and this has been your Dragon Age Inquisition update. Although you can expect more very, very soon, as BioWare unveils more of the surprise new 4-player co-op multiplayer mode on screen now. More on that as we have it. Subscribe now so you don't miss a thing, and thanks for watching.